Happy Friday. We are back. Matt Gaines live here. I hope everybody had a great week. Let's get talking about carrier violations today. But first, I have a complaint. If you are watching this by video and you are thinking in your mind, why is Cassandra dressed from the 80s? Okay, first of all, I am from the 80s, people. I like the 80s. It's coming back. The reason why I'm angry right now is because when I transitioned my show over to FreightWaves, I was promised that FreightWaves the people would be very nice to me, but they're not. You know, specifically, I made a list. Isaiah, Frazier, Tanner, Cody, all made fun of me and my look before this. I just want you guys to know that. So I think I look cool. I think my guests are probably going to look better than me, but I guess I will let that go. So I will introduce my guests. I have Stacy and TJ. Could we bring them on? Let's dive right in to how we look at carriers and whether we should hire them when they have those violations, those drug and alcohol violations. Or, you know, maybe the FreightWaves people are just going to shut off everything and cancel my show. Oh, okay. No, you know, I got a text from Anastasia. She says she's waiting for you guys. So I wouldn't be surprised if you guys just, you know, turned her off. But at least we can bring TJ on. Or I can just keep talking. Or we'll just hang out. Or you guys are all just laughing at me and put me on mute. I mean, I'm just used to this. Oh, nice. I have somebody in the control room. This is great. Hi, TJ. How are you?
Hey, Cassandra. What's going on? I'm doing good.
Well, I made fun of the FreightWaves people, and now their fingers are hovering over a lot of buttons, and they think it's funny. And I'm picked on. Oh, look, Christian said he's the only one left in the control room. They all left. Okay, generally, do you think FreightWaves people are nice? Have you met any of them before, TJ? Or are you like, I don't give a shit, Cassandra, get to the topic?
Both, but at the same time, I've met a couple people at FreightWaves before, John Paul Hempstead, and I think that they're great. I think what they're doing is great. And I think they're opening up a door to something that we haven't had access to in a very long time, which is nice.
It is nice. Do you remember when you first started in this industry? We would get like weekly magazines from like this trucking news. And do you remember that? And that was like all you had.
We have a stack about 4 feet high in our office still. We still get them to this day. That's terrible.
You still get them?
We get them every week.
Do you actually read them?
No, they just keep coming. We haven't canceled. We don't even remember how we subscribed. So they just keep coming into the office, and there's a stack of them like 4 feet high piling up in the back room.
I'm going to text Stacy right now and ask her where she is because she's amazing. You will love her. All right, where are you, Stacy? Check your email for the link. And so let's get started. First of all, I think that we should talk about your company. We'll talk about, when we talk about violations, TJ, and how you vet carriers and how you look at carriers or whatever you do, you don't need to talk about your secret sauce. I know that Capital spends a lot of time. I love you guys over there, obviously, because you guys are New Yorkers like me. So I have like this warmth when I see you guys because we can all pick on each other and call each other names and get right to the point. I love. But I know you guys are very passionate about carriers, how you look at carriers, how you put certain carriers on certain shipments. So you don't have to tell us your secret sauce. You can speak in general about what you guys do over at Capital, or how in general, how you think things should be done in the industry. But let's say you look at a carrier, and I'll let FreightWaves show the carrier that, and just so you know, FreightWaves people, if there's anybody left, and Stacy says that she's in the waiting room. Yes, this is the carrier. Perfect. Showing up on the image now for those of you who are listening and can't see. It's, you know, I just threw a carrier up there with my new software, Carrier Assure. You can find out more information on carrierassure.com or freightunicorns.com. We are in beta, but I go through the software and it's a performance indicator software. So it's like a credit score. And it indicates how the carrier will perform, not if they're safe or not, performance. So this carrier that I was looking at. I was like, oh, this is good. B plus. We've got lots of inspection data. We got things to look at, and they seem to be doing really great. And then I saw one of their violations was for, I think, drugs. One violation for drugs, and all the other data looked really, really good, right? And the show is not about that specific carrier or anything else. It's more about what do you do when you see a carrier and they have a violation? Can you just make a black and white rule like we are never working with any carrier who had a driver with drugs? Boom, done.
It's tough. So there's a lot of things that you want to look at. It's, how big is the company? Number one. Is it a company that has a safety department? Are they big enough to where they can support, a substantial process for safety vetting? You have to look at what the violation was for. If it's for a guy that got pulled over for some weed, and they send you a safety letter with a proper letterhead from the company, it tells you that they either terminated the driver or they took the proper training protocols to retrain him on the drug processes that they have. That's something that I might consider. But if it's an owner operator that just got a safety or an alcohol violation a month ago, that's a different story.
Yeah,
but a reputable company with if it's not like Mo, Larry, and Curly doing the dispatching and they have a safety department, it's a different story than somebody that it's just like fly by night.
Yeah. And I hope that people hear what he said there, which is, there's a lot of factors that he looks at, but, he does take into consideration if it's just one person with a truck and you had authority for like 3 months and boom, you get some alcohol or drunk driving violation. I mean, that's a much different picture if it's somebody with a lot of trucks or a lot of miles driven and a lot of years of authority. And it's very hard to balance this. Okay, we have Stacy now. Stacy, the whole reason that you're late is because I made the Freight Waves people mad. And they knew that I love you so much. And so I think they hung up on you on purpose. I'm just
that sounds about right. Thanks a lot.
Okay, Stacy is for those of you who don't know her, find her on LinkedIn. I think actually she goes by Anastasia.
Yes.
I call her Stacy. What do you want? What do you want people to call you?
Stacy's fine.
Besides bad names. Okay, good. So I go by Stacy. And okay, so here's the thing, you guys. Those of you who don't know Stacy, she is with Ease Logistics. She's had same position as TJ. TJ's over in New York with Capital, and they both have similar roles, looking at carriers. They are digging through the data. I dig into their business. That's why I know this. And ask them lots of questions when it comes to my software. So neither one of them are really going to talk about their companies and what their companies do or the secret sauce, but I think in general we should talk about these things. Stacy, right now we are talking about that carrier who looks really good. I mean, they've got 4 trucks. They've been around for a while. They've given you lots of good data that you can go by. You've run some loads, but you happen to notice just like this company here, and you happen to notice that they have a violation for drugs. And if you had a magic wand, I'm not saying that this is what Ease does or this is the decision making that you do, but if you had a magic wand and you were like, should we use this carrier? What's your thought approach to this?
I think my first thought is that they look good with everything else. And I think a big thing to take into the consideration is if you use them and then they get that safety or that violation, are you going to stop using them or are you going to keep using them? So if you're going to keep using them, then I think that shouldn't be considered when you're onboarding and vetting them in general.
I love that point. I really do. Because I think it's really hard to know when they're going to have all these violations. If anybody's had to look through violations, it's like nitty gritty details. All right, wait a second. Stacy, who'd you just smile at? Is that Peter?
It was. Everybody's walking by making faces. No.
They're such brats. Okay, so Stacy, I have a complaint. I made 2 complaints against you. And TJ, don't get comfortable because there's a complaint lodged against you as well. This is my complaint. First, it was Freight Waves. Check. The second complaint is for Stacy. So Stacy, I went to the lean. I went to the lean event in Vegas, and you have a very smart CFO. I love him. His name is Justin.
Yep.
But he fed me, one night I was trying to network, behaving myself, and he fed me espresso martinis. Have you ever had an espresso martini?
I haven't, but if somebody was going to give me one, I'm sure it'd be him.
Horrible. Don't
What
do it,
time
you
is
guys.
this at?
I got so drunk. Yeah, okay, thank you, TJ. That was a very logical question. It was like at 7 at night, 8 at night, so it was like, I was like,
That's not ideal.
and
Was this
there I
before
am at like 4 in the morning, still going. Like, horrible.
I've been there.
Horrible.
I've been
Is
there.
this where you guys needed
So-
IVs the next morning?
This is why I shouldn't tell you anything. Yes, okay, so the next morning, you guys, we went and got IVs. You literally in Vegas, I don't know, TJ, if you've ever done this before, but you can get an IV of solution to help your hangover.
That's incredible.
And I have a picture. No freight waves, you don't have it. I have a picture of Justin, my husband, and me getting IVs so we can recover from our hangover. And yes, that was because of espresso martinis. I also have a lot of other complaints about your CEO, but we'll address that later.
That
TJ.
would be a longer list.
Next thing is for you. Yeah, I know. You're like, here, let me pull out my freaking mile-long list. All right, TJ. The next one is for you. So when you're digging through the violations or you're digging through any of the other data regarding the carrier, is there anything else you would like to talk about that you see as red flags that drive you up the wall?
There's a bunch of red flags. So one that really bothers me is when the email doesn't match the name of the company. So you can have a company, you know, AYG Logistics, and then their FMCSA registered email is, you know, yahoo@gmail.com. And it just has nothing to do with the company name. And if you really look into it, half the time it's just going to be some dispatcher on the couch that really has nothing to do with the company. The undeliverable mail alert is another one that drives me nuts. I think that that's a huge red flag for me. It just means that you can't get mail.
Too.
Like if you can't get mail,
Like you legit, the FMCSA tried to send you mail. That's what that means, you guys. For those of you who are like, what does undeliverable mail mean? The FMCSA legit sent that carrier mail and it got sent back to them. And like
if my friend didn't
that
have
drives
a
me
mailbox,
absolutely up the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you in the comments, because I see we got Jake. Oh, hi Jake. We got John Radvansky. I know you. I see you, John. We have Matt Fink is in the house. Yay! Easer Delivery, Thomas Bray. But you guys, if anybody has looked at email addresses and because this is like the contact information, I think this is so important that TJ brought this up because if especially the undeliverable mail, which I'll go back to that in just a second because I don't think anybody really watches for that. Stacy, you said yes about the email address. Do you look at that as well?
That is probably one of the first things I look at. And then there's people out there that on the ops floor that tell me I'm a cop all the time, but got to do what you got to do. And I think we've had so many times where the real owner is like, nope, that's not my guy. So I think that's the biggest thing to look for.
When you try to explain, both you and TJ, when you're trying to explain to people on the floor, when they're like, why do you give a shit about the email address? Why are you annoying me? It took me forever to get this carrier to take this load. What's your explanation? What are you watching out for? What are you trying to prevent?
Stolen load.
you want to go? Yeah. Mine's more service related. So obviously you have the stolen load factor, but there's two aspects to the email thing. And, you know, one's you can have a legitimate email of the guy that you're talking to and he's the owner of the company. But at the same time, it still doesn't match what the company's name is. And it's just a guy who's hiring a friend to do the load who has no idea what they're doing. So you can have a legitimate email that doesn't match and still do the load. Or you can have something that Stacy just mentioned where it's a completely fraudulent email, you know, that's like AGY1logistics@gmail.com versus their real email, AGY@gmail.com, whatever it may be. So there's kind of two separate reasons that we look at the email. One's service related and one's safety related.
I love that. What does it look like when you guys talk to the people? Like Stacy, when people call you a cop, like what are you telling them? Because I've been in your position and I'm sure you're much more professional than I was. about it. But how do you explain it to somebody who's like a new carrier sales rep and they're like, man, she's busting my chops over an email address?
I think so. Unfortunately, we had a big instance where a load was stolen because we did not verify the email address. So I always bring up that situation. It was a whole load of shrimp and it was just this major disaster. So I think when people understand the severity of it and what can happen if it's not verified, it really hits home. And then when somebody does book a load with somebody that's not verified and they almost get their load stolen, they're like, oh my gosh, this is why I should have checked and I didn't. So it's just...
I love that. And I've been through that too. I usually tell people, go ahead, TJ.
I was going to say the exact same. Bring up the absolute worst case scenario and just scare them to death.
And I want to tell people out there who are like, man, nothing's ever really happened to us. Oh, honey, just wait. It will.
Just
like
wait,
if you are an experienced logistics or shipping company, you will have horror stories. Like you will have stolen loads. If you haven't, it's just because you're not moving enough freight, really, to be honest. And like it just happens to everybody. So I don't want people to like hear this and be like, oh my God, I'm never running loads with boom. No. Yeah. Every single shipper and broker that actually has some shipments, real volumes, have these problems. So when shippers hear this, I think often this is the reason why they hire brokers, is because this is a lot of work. I mean, undeliverable mail, violations, email. What else are you guys looking at?
Obviously, freight car reports. You want to take a look at those. That's an obvious thing. But then you also want to look at the inspections. I think it's important that they have a ratio that makes sense versus how many trucks they have. And there's no real science to that. Obviously, no inspections is something you need to look at. But if they have 2 inspections versus 90 trucks that they're registering with the FMCSA, that's a weird ratio. So you want to always dig into that. And it's hard for us to kind of train that to our team because you have to, like I said, there's no exact science. There's an art to that. But we do our best to kind of make sure they're aware of what a bad ratio looks like.
I love that point. Stacey, when people... Go ahead.
The map that shows where the inspections are, I think that's huge too. If you're hiring a California carrier to do an Ohio to Virginia load and they don't have any inspections outside of California, I think that's one of the biggest red flags too.
I had a shipper ask me recently, because I'm just as obsessed with inspections as you guys are. And I dig into the details, and you guys know that it's a dark hole, that inspection business. Like you could never come out of looking at all the details and the VINs. Yeah, TJ's like, yeah. But how like Stacey, if a shipper's like, I did have a shipper ask me this recently, a big one. They're like, why do you keep talking about inspections? What does that indicate if it has 0 inspections? Why are you so obsessed?
I think just to show it's like the real carrier that's getting inspected, and it's not a double brokered carrier that they just randomly gave a load to, that their inspections are under a different company. So I think it just shows they're actually running loads, they're on the road.
Yep, I agree. That's at least why I was looking at it. It's like our one real data, because we're just tech companies. Really, I say we, I'm not like you guys, but you're just tech companies. You guys, you're in Ohio, you're in New York, everybody's spread across. You're just on computers. Like you don't know these trucking companies. So I completely get it. Right. So I want to read off. We have John Radvansky brings up a very, I practice his last name so often. Now I say it even funnier. He makes a really good point. You better do your due diligence, especially with hazmat. So for hazmat shipper, there are extra steps you need to take with hazmat. That is such a good point. A&E Consultant says, well, here's a scenario I just recently had to deal with a drug charge. See, everybody has it. And I love telling people who are not in our industry, oh, you think I'm kidding about the drug violations? You think carriers don't have drug and alcohol violations? Oh my God, hell yeah, they do. But he says, I provide safety services and had a carrier that does a good job, hired me to assist and train their safety personnel. All of a sudden the driver gets cited because he was in possession of weed. That's bullshit. Okay, wait, I shouldn't pass my judgment. I don't think weed is real. I should slow down before somebody clips that and they're like, Cassandra thinks driving high is bullshit. Okay, wait a second. Wait a second. Okay, wait. Don't drive your 80,000-pound truck or any vehicle, or what is the word? Heavy artillery. What do they tell you with drugs? Like even like NyQuil.
Heavy
Don't
machinery.
operate heavy machinery.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Oh my God. I can see the Freight Waves guys making the clip now. It's fucking assholes. Don't do it. I just got mad because it's weed, and if the person wasn't high and they had some weed, it destroys a carrier's life. So,
I
man,
think
you
it's
must
different
have
if
pissed
it's
off
in
that cop.
possession too. So, yeah.
Yeah, but it's hard for us to tell sometimes what that violation is for, and then if you're looking at the difference between possession and actual under the influence, yeah, you're right, Stacey. Yeah, you're right. But man, that's rough. So let's see what he says. Sorry, now this is dramatic. I have 4 minutes left. Okay. And here's the thing: is like on my old forum, 4 minutes. Cassandra controlled it, so the 4 minutes would drag on to 40 minutes. But the Free Waves guys get so mad at me, they will hit that button, and they think it's hilarious. The he said the driver stopped at a dispensary in a state where it's legal to purchase, even though he's not allowed to buy it under federal law, blah, blah, blah. So the carrier had a drug charge to correct it, and they are still having issues with brokers not wanting to work with them. Oh, brutal. Matt Fink, all sleep on weed. The heavy machinery should churn into heavy artillery. You know what? Damn you guys. Okay?
That's an easy fix, though. That's an easy fix.
What do you mean?
Guy, at least.
Yeah.
So he's saying that nobody wants to work with them anymore. But it's, for me, if that guy was able to provide something that shows the write-up or the ticket that he got for that situation that proves that he was just in possession of it and not, high behind the wheel. If they were able to send me a letterhead kind of safety notation saying like, this is what happened, like we did this, and this as preventive measures to make sure he doesn't do it again, I would just save that and make sure use that if anything does happen down the road. They provided me enough information to use them and feel comfortable doing so.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you and Stacey something that's real talk. So you two and your experience, it's very rare to have your experience, and there's only like 50 of you guys in the country. So every other broker and shipper, they don't have anybody that can do that stuff, that can balance the they're all using like, a product that shuts carriers off and shuts carriers on, and that's it. You can't have a second guess. You can't operate in the gray. So I totally get it, but TJ, there's only one of you and there's only one of Stacey, and you guys are lucky to have you guys. I hope that Peter, the CEO of Ease, is listening right now when I say you're lucky to have Stacey.
Yeah, Peter.
And yeah, Peter. I love doing Peter shit. I live for it. Very intelligent CEO, by the way. If anybody wants to give him shit, you should reach out to him on LinkedIn and give him shit every day. You will make my day if you do. Send me screenshots. Yes. Oh, wait, how do you spell that last name, Stacey?
Coratola.
Okay.
I hope. Yeah, that's it.
Pick on him. So, your CEO, TJ, is going to be at TIA. He's speaking, isn't he?
Yep, he
so
is.
We can all pick on him.
Please do. And I'll be down there as well, I think, at least for a day.
1 minute and 30 seconds. Stacey, where's the next thing that annoys you? Like you see all the time, you're like, red flag, motherfucker, red flag.
I think kind of back to the trucks, if it does show that the carrier has 4 trucks and 4 inspections, but then in our carrier packet, they have 27 trucks, that just goes back to the inspections and whose trucks are they? Are they leased trucks, their trucks? So that's a thing I like to look at.
Me too. I'm also obsessed with that. TJ, what you got for us?
I think another good one would be, I just totally blanked on it, but I was just thinking about it 2 seconds ago. Now I can't remember what I was thinking about. You gotta, fuck.
It's because you've got like fucking 50 of them and you're out of service. How about out of service rates?
The out of service rate is, it depends on how long they've been in service for total with us. But the safety rating is obviously a
That's
big
smart.
one. There was one thing that I was like, it really is important that I can't remember what it was now, and it's really bothering me. Oh, related companies.
Like 2 in the morning, you're gonna spring up and be like, aha! So people find TJ on LinkedIn and ask him questions,
It's
and he'll think of
MC
it and he'll
relations.
post it on LinkedIn because he hates social media. What'd you say?
It's just related MCs. So if the company has a MC that has like a similar phone number or a similar fax number, that's also something that we look into a lot. Just because when they do kind of, you don't know what that other company is, so you have to look.
Your dispatches for 7 other companies or something.
So true. All right. Thank you guys very much. We did a great job. Thank you, Freight Waves. Sorry you have to push the button on me again. I still love you guys, even though you're mean to me.